3. True Wendy's horror stories. The rain poured hard over a sleepy Wendy's in Asheville, North Carolina. I remember standing at the counter, tapping my foot, waiting for my late night order when I first noticed him. A man in a pale gray hoodie, head low, smiling so wide it looked painful. The restaurant was almost empty, just 2 teenagers whispering by the window and an older couple eating silently. Yet I felt at that wrongness, like the air had gone heavy and sour. The man didn't order anything. He just stood there, by the napkin stand, staring with those eyes, wide and unblinking. I glanced at the workers, hoping someone else noticed, but they just kept moving, faces blank, as if nothing was there. When I finally got my tray, I rushed to a table in the far corner, heart pounding harder than it should. That's when I heard it. A laugh, low and broken, leaking from somewhere behind me. I turned quickly, but the man was gone from the front. The teenagers were frozen, eyes locked on the play place glass door. I followed their gaze, and my stomach twisted. Through the dripping glass, in the darkened play area, stood the man. Only now, his face was clearer, grotesquely pale, hair wild and frizzy like burnt hay, eyes glowing faint red under the flickering lights. He pressed a single finger against his cracked lips. Shh. I stumbled back, knocking over my drink. The couple near the door didn't react. They just sat, chewing slowly, eyes dull, almost mechanical. My voice caught in my throat. I fumbled for my phone, but when I lifted it, the screen refused to light up, dead. I wasn't alone anymore. A girl around my age, blonde hair dripping wet, slid into the booth across from me without a word. Her hands shook as she whispered, "You saw him too, didn't you?" I nodded, too scared to speak. Her eyes darted nervously to the windows. He chooses places like this, ordinary, quiet, places no one notices when people vanish. Something slammed against the glass doors of the play place, loud and jarring. We both jumped. I swear for a second I saw dozens of pale faces pressing against the glass, grinning, mouthing, silent screams. Then they were gone. The girl grabbed my wrist, her nails digging in. "We have to leave. Now." But when we turned toward the exit, the lobby stretched impossibly long, the red Wendy's logo flickering at the end of an endless black tunnel. I blinked hard. It wasn't like that before. The restaurant had changed. Behind us, the play place doors creaked open. I didn't dare look back. I just ran, pulling the girl with me. But every step felt heavier, like the floor was made of syrup. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught him again. He wasn't running. He was gliding, silent, smiling. The girl screamed a raw, desperate sound that echoed too loud for the tiny restaurant. Lights overhead buzzed and popped, plunging parts of the room into shadow. I yanked open a maintenance door near the bathrooms, and we stumbled into darkness. Breathing hard, we pressed against the cold concrete walls. In the dim emergency light, I saw writing smeared across the floor in something dark and glistening. No exit, no end, no escape. The girl clutched her necklace, murmuring something under her breath. For a moment, it felt almost safe. The hallway was silent, except for our breathing. Then, a low, dragging sound. Closer, closer. His voice came next, sing-song and mockingly sweet. "I see you." The girl grabbed my hand, tears streaming down her face. I knew we couldn't hide forever. We had to move. Now, the last thing I saw before we bolted was his face peering around the corner jaw, unhinged, mouth stretching into an impossible grin, eyes burning like coals. And still, that whispered hiss followed us. "Shh. We didn't know then. We thought we were escaping. We thought we still had time. But some places, once you enter, you never really leave." We sprinted through the narrow maintenance hallway, shoes squeaking on the slick floor, the fluorescent lights above flickering like dying fireflies. The air grew colder the deeper we went, carrying a stench like wet cement and mildew. I could hear him behind us, not running, but gliding over the ground, closing the distance without effort. The hallway branched into two paths ahead, one veering left into darkness, the other faintly glowing under a flickering exit sign. Without thinking, we darted toward the light. My lungs burned, legs trembling, but adrenaline shoved me forward. The girl clung to my hand like a lifeline, whispering frantic prayers I could barely catch. As we burst through the door at the end of the hall, we didn't find the parking lot as expected. We found ourselves inside another dining area, identical to the Wendy's lobby we had just left. The same faded booths, the same soda machines humming lowly, but twisted, wrong, as if reality itself had folded in on itself. The girl let out a choked sob. She backed into me, eyes wide in disbelief. I scanned the room, heart hammering, searching for any sign of real escape. In the corner, near the restrooms, stood a figure. Not the man from before, but something worse. It was a woman this time, wearing a tattered black nun's habit, her face sickly pale, skin cracked like dry riverbeds. Her eyes were white voids, and when she smiled, her mouth split, unnaturally wide across her face, revealing rows of jagged teeth. In her hands, she cradled a doll, a hideous thing, with matted brown hair and eyes stitched shut. We froze. She didn't move, just stared, her body swaying slightly like a marionette held by invisible strings. The doll's head lolled forward as if nodding at us. My brain screamed to run, but my legs wouldn't obey. The door behind us slammed shut, sealing with a loud metallic click. The sound jolted me into motion. I grabbed the girl's arm and pulled her toward the kitchen doors, swinging loosely on rusty hinges. Every step felt heavier, the air thick like syrup, making it harder to breathe. We pushed through into the kitchen, the smell of old fryer oil and mold hitting us like a wall. Stainless steel counters lined the walls, smeared with grime, pots and pans swinging gently without wind. There were footprints on the greasy floor, dark and wet, leading deeper into the gloom. Something brushed past my ear, a faint whisper, almost too soft to catch. I turned sharply, but saw nothing. Still, the girl flinched, clutching her ears like she was hearing something worse. Her knees buckled, and I had to half drag her forward. In the back corner of the kitchen, we spotted a service elevator. Its doors were slightly ajar, a faint blue glow seeping out. No hesitation. I shoved the call button, praying it still worked. Behind us, the kitchen doors creaked open. I didn't need to look to know they were both coming. The elevator doors slid open with a groan. We stumbled inside. I slammed the close button repeatedly. The figures approached slowly, footsteps scraping against the floor, their distorted faces grinning wider the closer they came. As the elevator shuddered to life, I caught one last glimpse through the narrowing gap. The woman raised her doll, its stitched eyes somehow weeping black streaks. The man in the gray hoodie stood behind her now, waving lazily, mouth moving silently. The elevator dropped violently, sending us sprawling. The girl screamed as the lights blinked out, plunging us into pitch blackness. For a moment, all I could hear was the grinding of ancient gears and our panicked breathing. Then, singing, a slow, broken nursery rhyme echoing through the darkness. Twisted lyrics I couldn't understand, sung in a voice that was both male and female, child and elder. The elevator jolted and stopped with a metallic shriek. Silence fell again, heavy and absolute. When the doors creaked open, we were no longer inside any Wendy's I recognized. The world beyond was endless night, a landscape of cracked blacktop stretching into oblivion, illuminated only by the weak, flickering lights of broken street lamps. In the distance, small figures shuffled aimlessly, their movements jerky, wrong, like puppets controlled by invisible strings. The girl whimpered beside me, refusing to step out, but I knew staying was death. Something was coming up the shaft behind us. I could feel the vibration, the hungry pull of it. With no choice, I pulled her into the wasteland. The doors snapped shut behind us, trapping the rising darkness inside. We stood alone in the shattered world, beneath a sky that wept silent ash instead of rain. Somewhere beyond the cracked asphalt, A shadow taller than any building moved, watching, waiting. We had escaped one nightmare, only to stumble into another. And the worst part was, I felt something familiar here, something pulling at my bones like forgotten memories. This was not the end. It was only the beginning. We walked the cracked asphalt, under a sky that never changed, where no stars lived, only swirling clouds of ash. The girl hadn't spoken since we left the elevator. Her grip on my arm had gone limp, but she followed, eyes wide, mouth parted slightly, as if listening to something I couldn't hear. Our shoes made no sound on the road. That silence felt wrong, as if sound itself refused to exist in this place. The deeper we went, the more the landscape shifted. Street signs twisted into unreadable symbols. Shadows moved independently of their owners, sometimes stretching, sometimes twitching like they were trying to peel away. A guttural humming rose from the horizon, low and constant, vibrating in my chest. I looked back. The Wendy's was gone. Nothing remained but black emptiness stretching for miles. I had no sense of time. No cold, no heat. Just motion, just dread. Then we saw it. A lone building ahead, lit by a dim green light flickering above the entrance. Its shape was familiar but distorted, like a reflection in broken glass. A convenience store. The glass doors were smeared, the sign above broken, but there was movement inside. A silhouette behind the counter. We approached slowly, each step heavier. The green light above sputtered but didn't die. The door opened without touch, letting out a faint chime. Inside, everything looked frozen in place. Shelves stocked with expired snacks. Rotting hot dogs spinning endlessly on a warmer. Refrigerators humming weakly behind dirty glass. And behind the counter stood a man, perfectly still. His skin pale as paper, lips drawn in a crooked smile. His eyes were two solid black pits. He wore a name tag, scratched blank, and his hands were hidden behind the counter. He didn't blink, didn't breathe. The girl tugged at my sleeve. She pointed to the back wall. A door, unmarked, pulsing with a faint red glow around its frame. I nodded, avoiding the man's eyes as we passed. But as we reached the door, he moved. A twitch, then another. His head tilted to the side, and a crack echoed through the store like wood splitting. His mouth opened slightly, but no sound came out. Only that same humming, now louder, leaking from within him. The girl pressed the door handle. It opened without resistance. On the other side was no hallway, no back room. Just a staircase, spiraling downward, impossibly deep, carved from stone, slick, with something that shimmered like oil. The walls breathed. I swear they did. Moving in and out like lungs. We descended. With each step, the air grew thicker. The stairs narrowed. The humming became a whisper. Names, memories, nonsense. I recognized one voice. My sister. She had vanished 5 years ago. Her voice echoed in my head, calling my name like she was just around the next bend. The girl stopped. Her body tensed. Then she screamed, short and raw. Something had touched her. She clutched her shoulder. I saw red marks blooming across her skin, like fingers made of heat. I pulled her close, and we rushed down faster, no longer caring what lay at the end. The stairs stopped abruptly. A wide chamber opened before us, lit only by the reflection of a strange liquid that pooled in the center. The girl collapsed beside it, sobbing quietly. I approached the pool. The surface rippled, not from wind, but as if something beneath stirred. Then I saw it. Faces. Dozens of them, rising and vanishing, pale, silent, distorted like wax melting, all staring up. One of them looked like me. Eyes open, mouth moving, mimicking every word I said. I backed away. From the corner, the store clerk stepped out of the darkness, his smile wider now, stretching impossibly across his cheeks. He raised one hand, beckoning silently. The walls closed slightly, breathing faster. The air buzzed with energy, whispering words I couldn't understand. The girl rose beside me, but her eyes were no longer hers. They were pure black, I stepped back again, heart thundering. She smiled at me. The same smile as the clerk. Then, everything blinked out. Like someone turned off the world, and I was falling. Somewhere, distant and hollow, a bell rang once. Then again. I landed hard on something soft, yet unsteady, like falling into a bed made of breathing fabric. The air was thicker here. Every breath felt like pulling in smoke. Darkness pressed against my eyes, but slowly, shapes began to emerge. Twisted corridors, walls stitched together from uneven panels of different materials. Wood, metal, flesh. The girl was gone. The only sound was a wet, slithering scrape that echoed without clear direction. I pushed myself up, muscles heavy, legs trembling. The ground beneath my palms pulsed like a living thing. Ahead, faint light seeped through a jagged doorway, pulsing in time with the throbbing walls. I stumbled toward it, hands dragging along the damp surface. As I reached the opening, I saw them, people, or what was left of them, standing motionless, shoulder to shoulder, facing the same direction. Their skin pale, faces frozen mid-scream, but their eyes were wide open and following me. Each figure held something small, a piece of paper, clutched tight against their chests. I couldn't read what was written, but somehow I knew it was their names, signed away willingly or stolen. As I stepped through the crowd, they did not move, but the temperature dropped, breath fogging before me. Beyond them, the room opened into a vast circular space. High above, a ceiling of swirling mist rotated slowly, flashing glimpses of hollow faces pressed against it from the other side. In the center of the room stood a figure, waiting, a woman, or something shaped like a woman. She wore a dress stitched from black cloth, long enough to drag behind her. Her face was hidden beneath a veil, but her mouth was visible, stretched unnaturally into a crooked grin. Her hands were clasped at her waist, bony and pale, nails sharp like broken glass. She whispered without moving her lips, and the sound filled every inch of the room. I took a step back, but the doorway behind me was gone. Only blank wall. The whispering grew louder, words blending together into an overwhelming tide of noise. She began to move, gliding rather than walking, and I realized she was not touching the ground at all. From behind the veil, two glowing points of light emerged, eyes, burning cold. Locked onto mine, I ran. I didn't look back. Hallways twisted into spirals, stairways led to nowhere. Every path shifted, leading me back to that same room, that same whispering figure waiting. I collapsed against a wall, chest heaving, mind spiraling into panic. As I struggled to think, a small hand grabbed mine. I turned. It was the girl. Her eyes were clear again, wide with fear, tears running down her dirt-streaked face. She didn't speak. She simply pulled me toward a narrow fissure in the wall, barely visible. Together we squeezed through, the wall shuddering around us, like it hated being touched. We stumbled into a new space, smaller, darker, a maintenance corridor. Fluorescent lights flickered weakly overhead, buzzing and dying one by one as we ran. Ahead, an iron door stood ajar. Beyond it, I glimpsed something impossible. The Wendy's, but twisted, decayed. The sign hanging by one chain, windows cracked, but it was real. It was home, a way out. We pushed through the door. The smell of old fryer oil and dust filled my lungs. Relief surged through me but died instantly as the girl froze, pointing toward the counter. There he was, the man from before, the clerk. His grin split even wider now, the skin of his cheeks cracking at the corners. His black eyes gleamed. In his hand, he held something dangling. A mask. A simple, pale mask, like a blank face. He raised it slowly toward his own and placed it against his features. When he pulled his hands away, the mask was gone, but his face had changed. Now it was mine. He smiled with my mouth. He blinked with my eyes. He pointed one finger at me, then to the empty counter, where a second mask lay waiting. Behind me, the walls began to shift again, pulsing with that same horrible life. The girl screamed once, short and sharp, before everything tilted sideways. The world folded in on itself, and once more, we fell. We fell into a darkness so complete it crushed the air from my lungs. No sound, no light, no sense of direction. Only the girl's grip on my wrist kept me from floating into nothing. A pulse beat somewhere far away, rhythmic, slow, like the heart of something ancient and angry. Then the floor slammed into us. I tasted dust and metal. The girl coughed weakly beside me. Slowly, shapes started bleeding from the blackness. We were in another part of the Wendy's, but it was wrong. Tables warped into twisted angles. Chairs fused into the floor, the walls breathing in slow, shuddering waves. Flickering overhead lights revealed the counter, but where menu boards should have been, there were mirrors. Dozens of them, cracked, stained, tilting downward. Each reflected not our images, but scenes. Snippets of memory, some familiar, some impossibly foreign. I saw myself standing at the counter, ordering food, but my face was blank, mouth moving silently. I saw the girl, much younger, laughing, while balloons floated above her. I saw the clerk's face peeling open like paper, revealing nothing underneath. Every mirror whispered, calling softly in words I almost understood. Move closer, they begged. Look deeper. I fought the pull. The girl clutched my hand tighter, shaking her head. Together we edged along the wall, away from the reflections. But the mirrors began to bulge outward, frames twisting, glass stretching toward us like liquid. One cracked loudly behind me. A long pale hand shot out, fingers grasping, nails dragging deep grooves into the floor. We ran, not caring where, just away. As we sprinted past the kitchen, the smell of something rotting thickened the air. Ovens gaped open like mouths. The fryer hissed, bubbling with a black, viscous sludge. We reached the employee door, shoved it open, and stumbled into a hallway lined with lockers. A name tag lay on the floor. It was mine, but aged, yellowed, the letters smudged beyond recognition. I kicked it aside. Behind us, the door groaned shut by itself, the sound echoing endlessly down the hall. The lights here were steady, but dim, casting long, trembling shadows. At the end of the corridor stood another figure. Not the clerk, something taller. A man in a black suit, face pale as bone, mouth stitched shut with rusty wire. He did not move, but every instinct screamed at me to stay away. The girl pulled me into a side room, slamming the door behind us. We crouched low, hidden by rows of shelves, stacked with old uniforms, cleaning supplies, boxes rotting with age. I tried to catch my breath, but the air was thick, heavy with mildew, and something sharper, metallic. Footsteps sounded in the hallway, slow, deliberate, a pause. Then a dragging noise, like something heavy scraped across the floor. The girl buried her face against my side, trembling. I pressed my hand over her mouth, heart pounding so loud I thought it would give us away. The footsteps stopped outside the door. Silence stretched impossibly long. Then, a soft tapping against the wood. Once, twice, 3 times. The doorknob rattled but did not turn. The figure moved on. We waited, barely breathing, until the sounds faded. When we finally dared to leave, the hall was empty again, but something had changed. The walls were closing in, narrowing, pressing closer with each step. The lights buzzed louder, the air trembled. Somewhere ahead, the faint sound of children's laughter twisted into something shrill and wrong. We rounded a corner, and there it was, an exit sign, glowing a sickly green above a heavy door. Hope flared sharp and desperate. We sprinted, the girl ahead of me, hand outstretched. As we reached it, a shadow detached itself from the wall. Not the man, not the clerk. Something worse. A tall figure draped in a tattered black robe, hood pulled low, face hidden. From beneath the hood, a single pale hand emerged, finger pressed to unseen lips in a silent command. Suet. I froze. The girl froze. Time seemed to crackle around us. The figure stepped aside, motioning toward the door, head tilting in a slow, unnatural arc, an invitation, or a trap. I did not care. I grabbed the girl's hand and yanked the door open. Blinding white light engulfed us. For a moment, weightlessness, falling upward. No sound, no fear, only cold. Then we landed hard on cracked pavement, under a sky boiling with dark clouds. The Wendy's stood behind us, old, abandoned, windows boarded up, the sign hanging by a rusted chain, silent, dead. But the girl was not beside me anymore. She stood a few feet away, staring back at the building. Her hair stirred in a wind I could not feel. Slowly, she turned. Her face was wrong, pale, hollow-eyed, and her mouth stretched into a slow, crooked smile. The crooked smile stretched wider across her pale face, as if skin and bone strained to hold it. I stumbled back, heart hammering against my ribs. This was not the girl who had run with me through the halls of that nightmare. Her eyes were deep wells of black, no reflection, no light. She tilted her head, studying me like something curious and fragile. The clouds above churned, low and heavy, their color leaching from the world until everything was cast in shades of ash. I called out to her, voice cracking, but she only laughed, soft and broken, the sound unraveling in the air like smoke. Behind her, the Wendy's building shivered, the boarded windows flexing inward as though it still breathed. The sign swung harder, screeching a metallic wail that scraped my nerves raw. I took a slow step back. The girl, or whatever wore her shape now, mirrored the movement, stepping closer, arms dangling limply at her sides. Her shadow stretched long and twisted across the ground, splitting and writhing as if alive. I turned and ran, gravel biting into my palms as I stumbled. The town around the restaurant had vanished. No streets, no houses, only endless cracked asphalt stretching into a gray horizon. My legs burned, lungs clawing for air, but every step seemed to sink deeper into the ground, as if invisible hands tried to drag me down. I did not look back. I could feel her behind me, gliding instead of walking, her laughter growing sharper, thinner, until it sliced through the air. Then the ground beneath me gave way. I plunged into darkness, the world folding over itself. I landed in a narrow corridor lit by a dim red glow. The walls pulsed, slick and warm under my hands as I pushed myself upright. The air was thick with the sour tang of rot. Ahead, a door waited, familiar. The employee entrance we had tried to escape through, but this time, carvings covered its surface, deep gouges that formed symbols I could not understand. As I moved closer, I heard whispering, hundreds of voices all speaking at once, layered and tangled. My hand hovered over the handle. From behind, the girl whispered my name, voice sticky and sweet, but I did not turn. I wrenched the door open. Blinding light flooded the hallway. I stumbled through into the dining area. It was empty, pristine, just like when I had first entered hours ago. Sunlight poured through the windows. Customers sat at tables, eating, laughing. The smell of fries and coffee hung in the air. For a moment I thought I had made it out. I almost allowed myself to believe it. Then I noticed their faces. Blank, smooth skin, where eyes and mouths should have been. They turned toward me in unison, heads tilting at impossible angles, bodies convulsing silently. From the counter, the clerk stood smiling wide, his mouth stretching far beyond human limits, revealing rows of too many teeth. The girl appeared at my side. Her hand slipped into mine, small and cold as ice. She gazed up at me with those hollow eyes, still smiling. Around us, the customers began to rise from their seats, moving stiffly, arms reaching. There was nowhere to run, no doors, no windows. Only the endless white glow above us, and the smell of food that now reeked of something ancient and wrong. The girl tugged gently at my hand, leading me toward the counter where the clerk waited. I tried to pull away, but my body refused to obey. Step by step, dragged forward by her impossible strength. The clerk leaned across the counter, his face splitting open in a rictus of welcome. Behind him, the mirrors shimmered again, their surfaces rippling like black water. I saw myself reflected there, standing not with fear but smiling, a wide, broken smile that did not belong to me. The mirrors reached out, their edges curling forward, pulling me in. I screamed, but no sound came. Only the soft shushing noise from the girl, her finger pressed gently against her cracked lips. The last thing I saw before the mirror swallowed me was her eyes flaring white, her mouth opening wide enough to split her face, releasing a howl that shook the world apart. And then there was nothing. Only silence. Only darkness. The Wendy stood quiet under the dead sky, its sign swaying lazily in a wind that touched nothing, waiting, always waiting.